Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Tournament Center at Pro Tour San Diego. I'm here with Pro Tour veteran Craig Wescoe, and we're here to talk about his White Weenie deck, a deck you're calling Tricked Out White Weenie.
It's actually a name that Ben Stark came up with. He said, "Oh, you're playing White Weenie, except yours is tricked out."
If Ben Stark names the deck, that's good enough for me.
Good enough for me too.
All right, so you came to this tournament. What was your job one? You wanted to beat Jund?
Yeah, I expected a whole lot of Jund, and I guess I was right about that. 100 and something.
Yeah, it was like a third of the field.
Right, and so that was the main contributing factor behind early Weenies, Pro Red, Pro Black.
So you're starting with a suite of 4 Car Firewalkers and 4 White Knights. Pro Red, Pro Black.
Correct. And also, one of the biggest problems in Type 2 right now is that you don't get your colors consistently. Okay, so I was playing Boros for a while, and I'd be holding red cards and all white mana, or white cards and only red mana. So eventually I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have an edge by just playing mono-color. And my lands are all gonna come into play untapped, except for Amaria, one of. So 24 lands that come into play untapped, which is something most decks can't say. So I'm faster and don't have to rely on getting all my colors.
Right. And these two cards right up here just give the Jund deck fits, right? Like they have to have drawn just the right removal at just the right time.
Exactly. Both are immune to Terminate. They have to have the Lightning Bolt for the White Knight. They have to have the Maelstrom Pulse for the Firewalker. After Sideboard, they can have the Deathmark for it too. But basically, it's a diversity of threats too, because once they pulse this guy, then Elspeth gets active, and Pulse is one of their only answers to Elspeth. So then Elspeth they have to deal with.
Okay. So then we also have, in terms of creatures and threats, we have some Step Links. This guy seems to be showing up in every constructed format right now. How good is this card?
I playtested all of the 1-drops in the format. I had Core Duelist for a while, and he was real good with the equipment, but without the equipment, he was just not performing.
Right. I believe the technical term is poop.
Fair enough. And then the new Savannah Lion, Elite Vanguard.
Sure.
It was also just a vanilla 2/1, just wasn't what I was looking for. But a 4/5 with a fetch land, since I have 8 fetch lands, even though the only thing that can fetch are plains, they're solely in there for Step Links, to power up the Step Links.
Awesome.
So a 4/5 can attack into things like a Putrid Leech, or pretty much any creature that they can cast early on.
Right. And then the other guy, this was a big breakout card from World Wake this weekend.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Stoneforge Mystic. Talk to me a little bit about what your thinking was with this card.
Well, it's a card advantage engine, which is something that White really lacks. Between Elspeth, which can gain a lot of card advantage, and also the Mystic can get the equipment. So I went ahead and went up to 4. I started out with 2, then 3, then 4, and I was like, he goes and gets an equipment. Usually I start off with a Trusty Machete or a Basilisk Collar. Against any sort of red deck, I automatically go for the Collar and start trying to gain life, because then they have to use the removal spells on my creatures instead of on me. And also against decks like Wall of Denial, Basilisk Collar is really good. And a lot of times I get Trusty Machete just to stick it on one of the protection from creatures, just to get a quick 4 points of damage a turn clock. Then I cast Elspeth and deal like 7 points of damage. And it's a creature that, if they're a red deck, they can't deal with this guy. Or if they're black, like vampires, they can't deal with him.
Okay. Now this all seems, somewhat straightforward as far as what we think of as a White Weenie deck, right?
Except for this card.
What is this card doing in your deck?
Okay, good question. Basically, in playtesting, I found that between the Elspeths, who can keep generating tokens, and all the equipment that just sits on the board, and I can keep re-equipping it to a guy. Whenever my opponent plays a Wrath effect, like a Day of Judgment or an Earthquake, I can recover really quickly. So I almost don't care, which is something a White Weenie deck usually can't say, about mass removal.
Right, so you're not looking to play out a army of little guys. You're looking to sort of build up all your eggs in one creature basket.
Well, like 2 creatures at a time usually.
Sure.
And and hold back creatures in case they Wrath. And basically the Day of Judgments, I expected a lot of green-white base decks, like the Naya, the Bant, things like that, and also some Eldrazi green. So they have to overextend their creatures in order to keep up with my early creatures. And so once they overextend, I wrath them, and then I start building up.
Right.
And also against vampires, it's a way to deal with Blood Witch.
Cool. Oh yeah, that's a great point because you have a lot of problems with that card otherwise.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, this guy, one of the main reasons he's in the deck is because of Blood Witch.
Oh, the Dread Saturate. And this is not a card I've seen a lot of at all this weekend.
Right.
It's pretty distinctive to your list.
Extremely powerful. I'm very impressed with it.
Even though it's
right.
costing you 4 mana to activate, that seems...
Well, it does a number of things. One is a lot of times I have to tap out to deal with like a Planeswalker or my threats. And so if they say Wrath of God, then I just untap and I am threatening 4 points of damage. And if I have an Elspeth in play, then I'm threatening 7 points of damage, flying.
Right.
And there have been games, I didn't play against any vampire decks here, but in playtesting, I played against vampires or even Jund who'd play a Blood Witch, and I'd have this guy in play and an Elspeth, and I'd activate a 4/2, then give him +3/+3, so I'd have a 7/5 flying colorless threat. So they'd be chump blocking with Blood Witch against mono white. That's a good feeling.
that is a pretty good feeling. Well, let's talk a little bit while we take a look at your sideboard. Let's talk a little bit about your career, because you've been around as long as I can remember coming to these Pro Tour events. You've been someone who's been on and off the tour. This last year or so, I'm seeing you everywhere. So what's going on? What's changed? How have you gotten back into it so hard?
I'm in graduate school now.
Okay.
So my time for Magic is very limited. I play whenever I can. I played in a Pro Tour qualifier for Honolulu, and I won the tournament. So I played in Honolulu. I did well enough there to qualify for Austin.
So top 50
Worlds.
in Honolulu.
No rating though.
Oh, excellent.
Because I won the PTQ. And
okay.
I went like 7-3 in the constructed. And then I top 50'd Worlds to get here, and now I guess I'm qualified for San Juan.
Right. So Craig, right now, even as we're recording this, we don't know if he's top 8 or top 16 of this event. So you might be watching a deck tech for a top 8 deck. You might be watching a deck tech for a top 16 deck list. Either way, this is a deck you want to be thinking about when you're going to Friday Night Magic. It's Craig Wescoe's Tricked Out White Weenie. For Craig Wescoe, I'm Brian David Marshall from the Tournament Center.